Guys, welcome back to the show. We have a very special guest today, a little bit later in the day as we normally do because we had to facilitate the timings of Mr. Kris Fade. Thank you very much for joining us, mate.
You know, I'm on my radio show when you guys go live.
Yeah.
And I get all the pop-up. I'm like, they're live again, guys. Our competition is back. What is it? Is it usually a Tuesday or Wednesday? What day
So it used to be Tuesday. Now it's every Wednesday morning, 8:30.
Wednesday, yeah. We moved it a day.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Winter timings, summer timings.
Thank you for having me. An amazing office, an amazing team. Yeah, this is really
Thanks,
cool.
man.
Thanks a lot,
It's cool
mate.
to-
Really
Thanks to
Thanks
have
for
you
coming
over.
in. A little bit of a different dynamic. Normally, you're the one doing the interviews.
True.
Yeah.
I'll flip this at the end of it. Don't worry.
Cool. So like,
Because I know you both. I know you both personally. I've known
Yeah.
you both for how many years?
And to be honest, a lot of people don't know, but the reason why we kind of know each other
Yes.
was through you.
Yeah,
and that was
I
like,
Most people don't know
Yeah.
that.
You all know here that work here. It's because of me that you all know.
That's
No, it's
true.
funny. I've
It's
known you
true,
both for, I've actually known you longer.
Yeah.
You know, you're one of the first people that I
10
knew when I moved to
10
Dubai 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And I met Tom, and he was already working hard then, and then I met you a couple of years later.
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
And thank you for actually introducing us. We've never actually had that conversation.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
When
Yeah.
was it that I introduced you guys? I'm trying to remember.
It was an evening out.
Yeah.
You gave me. You gave me.
You made that sound so nice. It was an evening out.
It was
we were out.
It was a civilized dinner.
Yeah. I'm glad you
Always,
guys
yeah,
connected.
yeah.
And to see what you both have done individually, but together is really, really beautiful as we sit here 43 levels up in Dubai. It's fantastic.
Thanks
Pretty
a lot.
cool.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks, man. So, like in a nutshell, you're Kris Fade, host of Virgin Radio's morning show, but also a lot more than that. So, for the listeners, let's start off by just a very brief bio about yourself. What do you do?
I'm Australian Lebanese. I finished school and didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried to go to university and dropped out 3 months in doing a Bachelor of Commerce because I realized it wasn't for me. I went and did a short marketing course because I just felt like I needed to do something because my Lebanese parents were like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a marketing course. I started just doing odd jobs, cleaning cars, selling clothes, making coffees. I'm a great barista if you ever need a coffee made. I did that for about 4.5 years whilst really still trying to find myself. And then I decided to try out to become a radio driver of a promotional radio car. Our local radio station was looking for someone. So I applied. I didn't get the job, but I started making contacts. And contacts, as you both know, are very, very important. And I didn't get the job, but about 4 months later, the guy called me up, the program director of the radio station, said, yo, you want to come give this a go? Because the girl that we actually hired didn't, perform.
Okay.
And so that was my foot in the door into radio.
Okay.
I had access to one of the largest radio networks in Australia. Even though I was cleaning the dungeon, which we called it, which was the prize cupboard where all the prizes were kept,
Yeah.
I would go in on a daily basis and just reorganize it, mop it, sweep it, stack the car up with all the chips and the cold drinks that I would drive the car out and give away free stuff.
Yeah.
I did that for nearly 4 years, but in those 4 years, you have access to the studios.
Yeah.
And, I started buzzing myself in, and then I'd go up to level 3 where all the presenters were, and I started getting a taste of what radio was about. And I was like, man, this stuff's pretty cool. I like it. And then again, contacts, starting to talk to people, the right people. And I fell in love with radio.
Nice.
And I started to learn the craft of what radio is, how to do it, just really spending time with people who were already on the radio. And then about 3 years into me driving the car, finally got offered my first overnight gig, which was around midnight till 5 a.m., the graveyard shift, as we all started.
Is that what you call it, the graveyard shift?
Yeah, that's what they call it. And just started to perform and do what I do. And it just sort of kept going. I did radio in Sydney, and I progressed up for about 4 years.
Okay.
And at the age of around 26, I got offered a job to start Virgin Radio 104.4 with another gentleman.
Okay.
It was either Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, or it was Dubai. Being Lebanese and Lebanon 4 hours away, and thinking that I would improve my Arabic, which never happened. I decided to take Dubai, and Dubai 11 years ago was so different to Dubai today. I still remember getting on Google. Google was around 11 years ago, right? Googling it, and there wasn't a lot on Dubai 11 years ago. Like not that it is today with social media.
sure.
Yeah, certainly it's changed a lot.
Yeah, and then so Virgin Radio 104.4 started off doing the afternoon show, and then the way things happen, I started doing the morning show. It's called the Kris Fade Show. It's 6 till 10 across the UAE. The number one radio show in the country, I can proudly say, with our results that we get. We're syndicated across Australia, so I've done a full circle. On a weekend, the Kris Fade Show runs across Australia.
Okay.
I'm in Oman, in Lebanon, and some of the other surrounding countries, so it's pretty cool.
Good for you,
Amazing.
man. What a story.
Awesome.
I remember sitting down. I was in corporate marketing back in the day when you arrived.
Yep.
And I remember you coming in for one of those early meetings saying, we're going to launch this radio station. It wasn't even launched at that point. It was you and the sales team that came in and were like, right, I'm the guy on the show.
Nice.
This is the sales team. This is what the radio station's going to be about. And we had that full sit down, didn't we?
It's crazy to start a radio station. One of the reasons why I wanted to make that move is you don't get to start a radio station in your career very rarely. Very rarely. So to be able to be at the initial stages, and ARN, the Arab Radio Network, who are fantastic, and you need to have really good people behind you, as you guys are aware. You need to have a really good, solid team. And we had a really good team back then. But to run a radio station and have absolutely no money coming in, it's scary, you know?
Yeah.
And we ran without any commercials or any inventory for the first 12 months nearly.
Wow.
Because people we want to know what it is, how it is.
Yeah.
They want to understand before investing into something. And, once they started to realize that what Virgin Radio stood for, and then the money started to come in, and now, we do well.
Okay, so look, how do you feel that the media landscape has changed since you first came over here in Dubai? Because it's it's a bit of an anomaly in comparison to the rest of the world in terms of the dynamics, in terms of how powerful traditional media was 10 years ago, and how that started to change, and how that, we can follow that on into how you've started to build other things across digital channels. But how have you seen things change?
Things have changed dramatically. I think when you look at magazines, obviously you can see the decline in magazines, and people aren't really buying magazines, and subscriptions have gone, and a lot of magazines have closed down. When I was here 11 years ago, magazines were pretty heavy.
Yeah, for sure.
They were the big thing that you wanted to get in. People would want to do PR, and we're going to get you in this
The
magazine.
award nights and the
Award
events.
nights, all that,
it was all part of it, right?
It was all part of it. I mean,
Back
we've
in
been to
the
those
Hot
events.
100 and stuff like that, right?
All those magazines, which
they were dominating the whole
That was
industry.
such
in
a
way.
big deal back then.
They
It
were.
was. I mean, that and billboards were the two big things. And obviously, radio is a very strong medium, not only in the UAE but in the Middle East. And when we set up Virgin Radio, there was a study done for a whole year by Virgin Radio International to start a radio station here. They don't just go into a market to start a radio station.
Of course.
They want to see if there's growth in there. Is there a potential? They knew that radio was just so big. The population that live and drive from Sharjah to Dubai, Abu
commutes,
Dhabi, the commute. You're in
Yeah.
there. Normal radio listening ship is usually anywhere between 15 to 45 minutes on the way to work, maybe an hour. Here in the UAE, it can be up to 90 minutes, 2 hours. Some people are in the car. So I've really seen it sort of change from a radio perspective. A lot of radio stations used to have things sponsored. There weren't commercials. It was more sponsorship.
Yeah.
So a show would have 5 or 6 sponsors on it, right? And it was very cluttered and messy and different. We were the first in the market to really introduce just the regular commercial breaks of, here's all the fun, and here are our commercials. Then we come back to music, and here's some more fun. So we really structured it. We didn't create the wheel. It's radio. We've done it for forever. Radio, and there's ways of doing radio that works. We're on a CHR format, which is a top 40 format, which is just, the current hits. You hear them often, but we're not recreating the wheel. We know it works, and that's why we do it. Good music, good presenters, and we've got and the guys that advertise on Virgin Radio are fantastic.
Yeah.
How has digital played more and more of a role in, let's say, in the radio station since it started? Because I'm pretty sure I remember when the social pages were even launched for Virgin Radio.
Yeah.
And certainly I remember when for the show as well.
Yeah.
When you launched your own, and I was thinking, I was even thinking at the time, maybe this is getting a little bit diluted because there seem to be quite a few different accounts opening up. But you look at that now.
It's just norm.
And it's the norm, but they're also obviously performing so well.
Yeah, so
how has that played a bigger role?
Digital... I used to rock up to the show. You'd wear your pajamas,
Cameras
because you
weren't
were never
rolling.
seen.
Yeah.
It's funny now. Pretty, my co-host, she does makeup now. 15 minutes before the show.
So you definitely need to have a face for radio now.
Exactly.
It's like you didn't
But
really need to have a face
that's
for
what
radio.
digital did. It's taken it from just audio to a visual medium as well, and it's amazing. Digital. What has it done? It's allowed us to communicate with our listeners one-on-one after the show, which is so important.
Build that personal brand.
100%. And different radio consultants and management, some people would be like, don't promote your social media on the radio. If you're going to promote social media, you only talk about the station social media.
Yeah.
What are these guys? But studies have shown, and you speak to some really cool radio consultants, Dennis Clark, one of them, who is a mate of mine, but one of the best radio consultants I've ever worked for Rick Dees, produced Rick Dees and the Weekly Top 40, Ryan Seacrest and them all.
Yeah.
And he hit the nail on the head where he says,